Okay, Cantina Club. Hello, God bless you all. I'm here in Nashville at the Comic-Con convention, having a very nice time and talking to your representatives here. So good luck to you all. Have a wonderful life. God bless you.
We all know round here, Solo always does shots first. Singing your no, raise your glass.
Well, we're back to wrap up our reviews of season 3 of The Mandalorian. We've got the finale just happened a few days ago, and we're going to jump into all the details and talk about not only what we thought about this episode, but we're going to give a little bit of a wrap up for the whole season. Going to go back over our reviews that we gave throughout the season. As you know, we've been rating each show on a 1 to 10 star basis, and I've got the totals here for everybody. So we're going to look and see what we thought, what our average comes out to be after we end up rating this episode. So anyway, let's.
My money's on 1.5 because the odds are so long that it would be a good payoff. I don't think we rated anything under a 5 all year.
No, we didn't. Definitely not.
We're not crazy. What are we gonna do?
All right, who wants to start with first impressions?
I'll start.
Okay.
I have watched this episode 3 times now, and I enjoyed it more each time. I enjoyed it tremendously. I thought especially the action sequences were stellar. They were well produced, thrilling. It was very exciting. I do have some strong reservations though about it, but it is more because of, I think those reservations come not necessarily from the quality of the episode itself, but from the fact that it's a season finale and from its place in the overall season and then in the overall series, if that makes sense. I mean, we can talk more about that when we get to talking about this episode's part, how it makes us feel about the whole series or the whole season so far, if we have overviews of the season. But I really, really enjoyed it each time I watched it. And I'll get into specifics about things that I liked the most and reservations that I had later.
Okay. What about you, Greta?
I really enjoyed it as well. Again, I think you said everything I would say. The reservations come from its place in the overall story and impact of the seasons, ebb and flow of the seasons, and that's would be my critiques. But production wise, I was just thinking about like where I would rate this, and production wise, this is like an 8 or a 9 because the battles were fantastic. I listened to our reaction video while I was driving. I just had the audio on, and how many times we were going, "Wow, oh wow, cool," and we don't rehearse that stuff, we just do it
not,
whatever, you just do it when we feel it.
Was real.
So there was a lot of cool stuff in there that I'm not gonna bother to find fault with. So production wise, it was fantastic. My issues come from some of the weird disjointedness that seems to have slipped into Disney Star Wars ever since Book of Boba Fett, and seems to have spread into Mando more so now. But overall, really liked it, and I think most of my criticisms would come down to my expectations that maybe became a little bit of a runaway train, So it's more about me than about the show. So
yeah, I also really enjoyed this episode. I've also watched it like Gundark. I've watched it 3 times. Watched it, of course, the first time when we did our reaction video. Then again when I edited the episode together, the reaction video together.
You probably saw way more of it than you wanted to at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And then I just watched it again right before.
Increments.
I watched it again right before we were recording today because I realized I had yet to see this thing on a screen bigger than this.
Really?
Yeah, because when we did the reaction video, I just had it on half of my laptop screen, which is about this big.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I had it on half of that. Then I watched, like I said, when I'm editing, it's even smaller. It's tiny,
Yeah.
So so I actually was able to just sit back and watch it on the big screen, without any
without me talking over it.
But that was really good. I really enjoyed the episode, and we'll get into more detail about the whys and wherefores. But the visual effects were, like Greedo said, incredible this episode, much like last episode. And I'll go ahead and I guess just kind of bridge into our full discussion here by saying I think that these 2 episodes you could just take out the end credits from episode 7 and the opening credits to episode 8 and just run it as a full almost 2-hour episode, hour and 45-minute episode, because
Yeah.
they immediately jump into the action.
Mhm.
You know, that you even made that comment on the reaction videos, like, oh wow, we're not messing around, we're getting right into it here. You know, it's like the episode started and boom, they're already running down the corridor with
Yeah, I
blasters
thought they
out.
would
You know,
regroup and have a big
right?
discussion, you know,
Yeah, have some
and everything.
exposition and
They kind of did it at one point when they made it to the caves or whatever, but that didn't
Mhm.
last but a second.
Yeah.
and that had a point to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought half the episode would be people regrouping, and then I thought there was going to be a big face-off with Gideon and Mando, which I gotta say I'm disappointed there wasn't. As far as acting, I wanted to see Pedro.
Yeah, you wanted to see some
and
Yeah.
Giancarlo go
exposition
at each
between them,
other.
yeah.
Yeah, I want to see the actors go at each other, and I was really looking. They had me hyped with the thought that Gideon was going to interrogate himself or whatever,
Yeah.
and I thought maybe some cool things would be revealed, or I don't know what, you know. But yeah. Anyway, I didn't mean to derail it with that, but
No, not at all. So let's get into the details. Like I said, we hit the ground running with the action that ended up last episode inside the Imperial base in there, inside Mandalore. We get Axe Woes. We find out he is not a traitor, because I know we were debating that last episode when he's flying away. Is he really, on the level here? Is he actually trying to help them, or is he just getting out and saving his own skin? But obviously that turned out to be,
well, he was much maligned.
he was much maligned, but he came through. He definitely
No, he
came
totally
through.
was just a hero.
Absolutely. But yeah,
You know,
so
let me step in real quick and say something
Mhm.
about that. I think he almost had to be a hero after what happened with Vizsla last time. You know, in the conflict between the two of them in the last episode.
yeah,
They kind of represented the two different major factions of Mandalorian culture, and so you kind of needed to see both of them be willing to make their own sacrifice for the two sides.
That's
to
why I
come
thought he would
together.
die at the end, because
Yeah, I
by the
did
way,
too.
people, spoilers. I mean, we're doing a review, so
Obviously,
spoilers.
yeah.
Obviously, spoilers. I always forget. We forget to say that, but you should know better. Yeah,
exactly.
I thought, it would have been cool if they had died back to back or something,
Yeah.
or at the end, if Axe had not been able to get out of the ship, somebody's got to be, somebody always has
Right.
to be at the helm for some reason, even though we can't leave a droid to do it, or we can't program a computer to do it.
To just
Yeah, there always has
automatically
to be a
take it on this
person
trajectory. Yeah.
for once.
They don't have autopilot in Star Wars.
Yeah, for once they just put it on autopilot and everything was fine, But
Mhm.
but yeah, it would have been kind of cool. I look forward to seeing more of him, actually, now that since he survived. But I do feel like the stakes of this final episode could have used some more sacrifices.
Yeah, me too.
And it's the noblest cause the Mandalorians are probably ever going to have, is reclaiming their home world. This is the song that everybody wants to be in, so
Yeah.
Right.
I think Paz Vizsla will be one of the biggest names in that,
Yeah.
and then the other characters,
Yeah, and coming into it after, I mean, the last shot of that last episode was his smoking corpse. It was just like that was just
Exactly.
so and you were thinking that there was going to be something equivalent to that, in this episode. And I admit that was one of my reservations about the
Mhm.
episode. I was a little bit disappointed that there wasn't
I was wondering where the shot of the Mandalorian Jaw was, all running out after everyone left and stripping his armor and stuff, like they did in Boba Fett.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so next we get after that sort of initial action of Axe going up and commandeering the command ship to ultimately bring it down on the base, basically leave it as a decoy as he gets all the Mandalorians off to safety. We get back to Din Djarin, and he's trying to infiltrate and find where Gideon's
Well,
headquarters
first he
are.
escaped. It's
Oh,
like
yeah,
they sent
this is
two
escape.
chumps with him, with this badass Mandalorian guy. He sent two guys to escort him to the interrogation chamber. Or
Oh,
whatever.
right, yeah,
It's
you're
like
right. I forgot all
mistake
about the
number.
escape, yeah.
I forgot. I've lost count of how many mistakes the Imperials have made, but this is a huge one.
Yeah.
And pretty much as expected, he just whoops their ass up and
Yeah.
down the corridor.
Absolutely.
Like they're redheaded stepchildren. And then when he gets in a little bit of trouble because plot point,
Yeah.
Grogu shows up
Grogu steps in and helps.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
shows us again that he's loyal and didn't
Mhm.
run away with the other. He did go through the hole. We saw that, but then he evidently skirted around somehow in this
Yeah.
this giant base, as the episode went on, turned out to be not so huge after all. So
Right.
there's shortcuts everywhere back to where you started.
Right.
I've got to say something about that opening sequence, because it happened right before the title hits the screen, which is one of the most exciting moments in every episode. You have like a opening setup, and then something dramatic occurs and the title pops on the screen. And this is kind of indicative of my overall mixed feelings about the episode as a whole. I almost felt like it was a bait and switch at the end of the last episode when he was captured. It was so terrifying. Many people thought he was going to die. And then to have him just suddenly be free, before the title even comes on.
All it was a plot device to get him into the base.
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
That's what got him
yeah.
inside.
That felt kind of like a cheat, but I loved
because
the
it
way-
was.
Well, I love the way the sequence ended, though. When Grogu came, there's the moment where he tells him, okay, I need you to be strong because we have to stop Moff Gideon now. If we don't, this is never going to end. Are you with me? And then Grogu shakes his head, and then the title wins. I loved that moment.
Yeah.
It was like, it kind of set the pace for the rest of the episode.
Well, we finally have a statement of what they're going to do.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like they say, we are going after Gideon. Boom. It's like, yeah, when you have a goal that the characters want and they state what they want, everybody gets on board with it.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're not going after Gideon at this point, what the hell are they doing? Just
and it was also
you gotta go after him.
It was an acknowledgement too of his feeling about Grogu being enough of a warrior now. Like when he had pushed him into the training sequence and he said, I know what you can do, I've seen what you do in the earlier episode. It gave me a sense that they are now going to work together kind of as equals, and that's kind of what happened throughout the rest of the episode. That was one of the
they would have
I
been sunk without Grogu, basically. So,
they worked beautifully with his offense and Grogu's defense throughout. I just thought that was one of the highlights for me when the characters united and started working off of each other.
It's turning into Lone Wolf and Cub for real. Like,
yes, yeah.
Like people will underestimate Grogu because he's this kid, but
yeah, exactly. So I can kind of forgive the bait and switch, because I loved seeing the two of them unite, but still I felt kind of disappointed that something more dramatic didn't happen with Mando's capture,
right? Especially after the build up. And
I mean, come on, the interrogation, a confrontation with Gideon and Mando could have been a whole episode by itself.
Yeah,
absolutely.
People would have been fascinated if you just bothered to write a really good confrontation. If it was even a 20-minute episode and you put it in between, people would be there for it. I mean, that would be fantastic. And I'll call it what it was. It was a cheat, it was a shortcut to get from here to there because they couldn't think of anything else. Where they just, I mean, it's a lot of this season parts have felt not necessarily rushed, but like they just weren't prioritized. Like good enough. That's good enough. We need Mando in there. There's a door. So there's a door that separates Mando from everyone, and he gets taken away. Well,
don't you think that that's partly a result of not having Pedro Pascal? I mean, don't you think if they knew they would have him in this finale unmasked, that they would have him and Giancarlo Esposito together?
Yeah, that's the whole reason why this didn't happen. And I know this could kind of be its own episode just discussing this, because I know Greedo and I were texting about it yesterday, I believe, or I think all three of us were. But I really feel like, that the whole plan that they had moving forward with this show was completely thrown out the window because of Pedro Pascal's decision to go film The Last of Us, and not blaming him for doing that. That's fine. Do what you got to do. That's your job to be an actor. You're not automatically have to be Star Wars. That's just our preference. But the fact that he left, I just feel bad for the writers. I just feel bad for the writers because I feel like they had this plan because they built it up to where he's taking his helmet off. I have a feeling they were ready to have him without his helmet, almost like Bo-Katan was this season. And I truly believe that we got switched with Bo-Katan was now, playing the role that originally the Mandalorian was going to play. But the fact that he's not even on set for a single moment, he just phones in his voiceovers from probably 1,000 miles away, and that's all we're going to get of Pedro Pascal. That's that's really got to be
It's
hard for the
unbelievable.
writers to
It's
cope with, because
Yeah.
you've got this whole plan, you build up to this point, we got it all laid out, this is going to be great, and then, oh, by the way, our main actor, you're not going to see him, so change everything. Like,
yeah, it's unbelievable, really. I
yeah,
can't.
that's really
if you had
bad.
told me we'd go through season 3 and Pedro would still be on the payroll and we'd never see him, never see his
Yeah.
face,
Never even seen
I would have
Yeah.
called you a liar.
Yeah.
There's no freaking way, no way that would have happened. But I gave up. I wasn't even. I when he said take him away, I want to talk to him. I thought, oh, finally, we're gonna get our annual. But I never really. It wasn't like I was just totally expecting it because I'd gotten just used to the fact. I guess we're not seeing it. They went down this whole plot of it justifying why he needs to keep the helmet on again.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I guess that's the wrap, for his face for the rest of this year.
Yeah.
And but I got excited when Gideon said, "Hey, we're gonna have a chat" or whatever. I was like, all right, this is what I've been wanting to see. And nope. It's a big nope. Now the action was incredible. All the fight between Dinjarin and Gideon was amazing. I don't want to skip ahead, but well,
Yeah,
I did want to say also about when Axe went up and took over the ship, and then all the Mandos get in their ships and come down to help
Mhm.
Bo-Katan. I did feel like that was a cool moment because we were worried that Axe was a traitor, and he gets the communication. We figure he's not a traitor, or he would be just sitting on the planet surface going, "Oh yeah, I'm all right
Yeah.
on that."
Right,
But,
exactly.
but when he flew in the ship, first of all, the visuals were amazing.
Mhm.
Coming through when the Mandos are going in and out of that screen on the ship, just like the Dark Troopers did, and they're using their jetpacks, and they fly from ship to ship and land on the
The
landing ramp.
Oh,
transfer,
yeah,
yeah,
the guy
transfers are
slide
so
into it.
great.
Yeah,
I mean, this is
transfer.
like I can imagine that this is stuff that certain people have wanted to see since it's been
Yeah.
animated. I
Sure.
mean, it was
Mhm.
it's like a wonderful surprise, like that they go to the trouble to show the Mandalorians, because a lot of times we see how incompetent they are this season, and
Mhm.
we're like, what are they doing? But when you see them doing stuff like that, it's like, I think Gundark said, now I see why the
Yeah, why
Mandalorians are
they're
feared,
feared.
Right, yeah.
because they can strike with such mobility from anywhere, and each one is like a RoboCop or whatever, of his own. And
Mhm.
but anyway, I want to say the visuals were amazing on that, and it was also a good moment for me where he said, Bo-Katan, we have to help Bo-Katan or whatever. It actually, made me feel good that he was a good guy,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
that
yeah. Me
and that he
too.
was going to be loyal. It's like Mandalorians are loyal at their core, and there's been a lot of traitors and people looking out for themselves, and in the moment where a traitor would have ruined everything, the ones that
Mhm.
perhaps had the most to gain by with personal ambition set it aside and just said, hey, we're all in on this. We're not going to let Bo-Katan fail. He could have cut her off and let her die, and
Yeah.
still
Mhm.
possibly won the battle and taken the
Yeah.
throne for himself. Um, but this isn't Game of Thrones at the end of the day.
Right. That's
Anyway,
at
I want to
least
say that
showing
about
us.
that scene.
Yeah, I mean, that's at least showing us, like you said, that the Mandalorians do have some sense of, pride and
Yeah.
dignity and character, that they're not just cutthroat out for themselves. Well, I'm gonna lead. I'm gonna lead. No, I'm gonna lead.
And they
Yeah,
were
like you
like
said,
that,
it's
and on
not Game
so
of
much of
Thrones.
Clone Wars, they were like that. Their factions and rebels and stuff, their factions were
Hmm.
so exposed that was the story then. This is a different story now. They've all they got to do is look at their planet and go, we don't want this to happen again.
Yeah.
And so everything that brought them to this point, they're trying to fix now, and everybody's trying to redeem themselves collectively, kind of. But and the when the Mandalorian escapes and Grogu and all that, the fighting is fantastic in this whole
Yeah.
episode, and it starts here. And trying to remember the name of the stunt guy who does the martial arts. There's Brendan Wayne does the shooting, and they call him kind of like the gunslinger. And then there's another stunt double who does most of the martial arts work, and we'll go back and throw his name on here because I can't think of it right now. But he did a fantastic job, and the fighting had a certain kind of realism to it because he was exploiting weaknesses in the armor of his opponents and stuff.
Yeah.
And anything that was exposed, like when they're using shields, he's shooting them in the toe, even
Yeah.
shooting them in the
Yeah,
angle where
exactly.
just to throw them off and get them off balance and exploit. It's like Mando was a badass again, instead of just
Yeah.
standing around watching everybody else
Watching
do
things
things.
happen. Yeah.
It's like he said,
Yeah.
okay, it's time. I'm now going to, I'm out of rest mode that I've been in all
Yeah,
season.
to me, it was a throwback to season 1 on the prison ship, when
Yeah.
he was just the ultimate badass going around
Right.
taking
Yeah. He was
everybody
like
out
the
one by
Predator,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And you
Yeah.
remembered why he was top-notch bounty hunter, that the client would be willing to pay so much for his services in the first
Right.
season, you know,
That he's the best of the best.
he
Yeah.
just suddenly became that again, and we haven't really seen any of
Mhm.
that all season.
And I will say also during this kind of middle sequence, Gideon says, you know, they have the little glowing dot, the green dot that shows Grogu on his map or whatever.
Yeah,
and
that was
he
great.
says, ah, I see the Mandalorian escaped. This is just, to me, I love Gideon, and there was moments in this episode I loved him, but this episode for Imperials, again, it's just an epic fail. It's like there are so many things he
We're
could
back
have
to the
done.
Keystone Cops
Yeah,
Imperials.
we're back. We're back to just them making no sense at all. Like,
Yeah.
like what are they doing? And
Mhm.
his whole allocation of all of his resources almost made no sense at all. The whole last two episodes. Why not just have a TIE fighter drop, come right over to that door? They open the door and just mow everyone down with the cannons from the TIE fighter. You know what I mean? Why not
Yeah.
bring over a heavy repeating cannon blaster like he did for the freaking bar? And then when they open
Right.
the door, just mow them all down. I mean, you know, that's not even the beginning. There's so many things he could have done. But when he sees them wandering around the base, I just don't know what this, he went and waited on them, you know? I, and also the other thing I want to say in this middle section where Mando's penetrating the defenses and doing his
Yeah.
commando thing, it is a video game. Let's
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
call it what it
absolutely.
is.
Yeah.
I cannot believe we don't have a Mandalorian video game already based on all these level designs, all the way from the
Right.
Jawa sandcrawler back in episode 2 or whenever it
Yep.
was, you know, where it's like you had to crawl the wall while they're dropping stuff on you. Yeah, crawl up the sandcrawler. Every single part of the show from the beginning on has been video game design, and
Absolutely.
this was
Yeah.
total.
And
I mean,
that next scene where he goes through the different walls, you know, he
The
has
barriers, yeah.
he basically gets back with R4, who's
He's
meanwhile
gaining
plugged
more
into the terminal, and
weapons.
he's opening. Yeah, he gains.
yeah, let's
weapons
talk about the
each
R4
level.
little subplot. Okay, let's move to that section.
Yeah, we never did figure out where he came from.
Where the heck did he come from, and where the
Yeah.
heck did he go to? R4 is like the
Yeah.
ultimate magic trick. He
He just
appears
pops
from
into
behind a rock.
existence
He's
when
like,
you need
"Oh,
him."
hello." Yeah, it's like, has he been there since episode 4 or
He
what? Or
can't.
since
There's
2?
no way. There's no way.
It was episode
Well,
2, wasn't it, or 1 when he
wait a
invaded in the
second.
waters?
Okay, can't he?
Right,
He
episode
flies
2,
on
yeah.
Mando's ship, right? He flies on Mando's ship.
Yeah,
isn't that
because
correct?
he ratted out the Mandos to the
Yeah.
pilot in that
Yeah.
one episode, so he had to be hanging around. So
So
they
did
just
he
didn't
fly
show us,
on-
I
Yeah.
guess.
I guess they
didn't show it. But
they
they
just didn't-
definitely didn't show what happened to him at the
I
end.
think they
We
just
have
had.
no
I think they
idea.
had. I think
Like,
they had
did he blow
footage from
up?
that earlier episode of him
I think so
behind a
too, because
rock,
it actually looked
and they
like
just
that
didn't want to
episode.
film him coming off the ship. You know, so they said, "Oh, we'll just throw this in
Or
there."
they forgot or something.
Yeah,
Like, oh
they
wait,
forgot the pickup
let's
shot.
go
Yeah.
grab some stock footage and just put it in there.
And again, not to beat the dead
No.
mythosaur, but this is more of the sloppy weirdness that
Right.
pervades these shows that just bugs me. I'm not trying to hate on it. It just interrupts my enjoyment when I have to go, what? You know what? And now we're in a subplot with R5 or 4 or whatever his name is.
Uh-huh.
And that whole subplot to me, it is Mandalorian, you know, but I know it was supposed to be a funny little aside to break the tension. It broke the tension way too much. It was utterly almost completely pointless. And I just didn't like that bit at all. It went on too long. It like, if it was just beats, like you remember Return of the Jedi, they'd cut to the droids for a beat and then cut to the Ewoks for a beat. They cut to what Han's doing for a beat. This just cut to them and they just talked for a while. It's like, hey, how's it going? R4, R5, whatever your name is. Oh, I see a port here. Oh, I gotta hold still. There's a mouse thread going by. You know, it's like it just went on way too long. And I wasn't there for the amusement at that point. You know, I wanted to see.
Yeah.
Right, we're in the season
confrontations.
finale. We want to see what's
Yeah,
going to happen
yeah.
here. Yeah, that would have been fine in like episode 3 or something.
And like I
Yeah.
said, when are the Imperials going to learn that you can't have stormtrooper armor where just anybody can put it on and put a helmet on and just walk in your base, and you can't have these freaking little droid hack things everywhere. Like everywhere you go, they're just sitting there waiting to be
And there's
hacked. Your
no
whole
security
base.
on them. That's the thing. You
No,
don't need like a
what?
special Imperial code from the droid to get into that. You just,
And
anybody,
let's
any
just-
droid can access it.
We could have ended episode 4, New Hope, half the time if R2 had just gone in there and gone, I just set the reactor for overload. Let's get out of here.
Right.
Because that's basically how dumb the designs are on all Imperial stuff, and they could have just flown out in the Falcon and
Oh,
blows up behind him.
R5 was one of the spies.
There you go.
Oh, he was the spy. Yeah, you're right. He was the
He
spy.
even
Yeah, he
reported
was.
on the Mandos earlier in the series.
But I'm expecting Pedro Pascal, Giancarlo Esposito, and I get R5 and mouse droids, confronting each other.
I
Yeah.
see. I see.
Oh,
know what
I
I
get
mean?
it. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, I
So,
think
yeah.
it lasted too long too, but it didn't
was-
bother me as much as it did you.
And it was
Yeah.
another, it just seems so convenient. Like, hey, buddy, I need you to just pull my ass out of the fire here and do something that probably has no chance of working, but amazingly just does so easily. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, I would
Yeah.
prefer that Mandalorian has an actual plan, and he uses his own resources, not just, hey, where's that hack, pal? No, I don't understand what you're saying. I'm
But
just
how could he have a plan?
operating on a
They
plan.
didn't even have any idea when they went in there that there was an
Right.
Imperial base there.
Yeah, he couldn't have gone in with a plan in that
They had
situation. That's
no
kind of what I'm
idea
thinking
that
too.
was
It's-
there.
He's just having to improvise and figure it out.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't fault him for that.
I can though, because that sequence was really, really dumb. But and then we get the screens from Phantom Menace with the 2 guys behind each one for some reason. Like,
yeah, and they can't turn them. They can't turn the
they
walls
can't
off.
turn the screen. Yeah,
but
they're there
R5
until their
can.
shift is over. They're there until their shift is over. It's the only time the
R5
screens
blocked
drop.
them from doing that. Do you not understand?
Apparently
R5
not.
disabled it where they couldn't do that. Only R5 could down the
R5
screens.
is
He's the
apparently
only
just
one.
like the greatest droid ever.
Yeah. Why didn't R5 just do everything? Why didn't he just fight the battle then?
It should just be called, instead of the Mandalorian, the droid.
Wasn't there a switch just to smash the
Bad
canyon
motivator.
together and destroy all the Imperials? He could have just thrown that switch while
They'll
he's
just
at
drop
it.
dead.
It's like Gideon's like, oh, my plan was thwarted because the droid kept the screens from coming down. I just don't wanna hear
enjoyed the
that,
screen sequence though. That
I did
was
too.
a
I thought
it was fun.
Oh, it was
Yeah,
a
it was fun.
exciting
fun
as heck,
video
yeah.
action sequence.
The fighting
Yeah.
was phenomenal. It was great.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the Imperials are just dumb. They're just
And I just love the fact that I think it was the first 2 that he's fighting, and he takes the one out with the knife, and he gets the other one, and he reaches over to grab the blaster out of his hand, but he
Yeah.
falls too fast.
Yeah,
He's
that
like,
was
"Oh."
great.
It was just really well choreographed. It looked
Yeah,
really cool.
I think the fight people, and like I said, that stuff, I think these guys are having fun. They're letting them design the fights and execute it. And a lot of this has to come down to them and the effort they put in. So kudos to them,
Yeah.
because that stuff isn't done CGI or anything. And
No.
if they said good enough and called it a day, the fights wouldn't be as good. And they were fantastic. But like, why didn't the Imperials why didn't they call for reinforcements? It's like 2 screens have been penetrated. This guy's he's killing us. Get reinforcements.
R5 cut them
Don't their
off.
helmets? Oh my god! Seriously? Why does every rebel have an R5? Why don't we just send R5 out into the galaxy to handle everything?
R5.
If R5 is going to be your answer, come on. But
No, but I love the screen. The thing I love most about the screen sequences was that he was picking up new weapons from each of his downed opponents every
Yeah.
time he went through one.
Well, that
And
was
the other
great,
ones
yeah.
who were watching and like they scrapping their
That was
armor by the
great, yeah.
time
Yeah,
they start
that was
getting
great.
it in, and they're like, "Oh my god, no!"
Yeah.
And they're banging to try to get the.
I wish
screen
2 of them had looked at each other and like done a fist bump or something before, like to encourage each other.
Right.
Like, we can do
Let's get
this.
We
Okay,
got
buddy.
this. We got this.
You remember the training we had? We can get this guy. Come on. Because if it's a video game, each one's tougher than the last. It's like the shield and shock baton guys should have been tougher than the first guys. And
Right.
Yeah.
And
But,
then, of course, he makes it through and gets to the boss level, which is
Yeah.
Gideon.
right
as
before
you
we
would
do
in any
that,
video game.
we also have in the episode cutting away the Mandalorians went to that cave,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and this was an aside that
Oh
seemed fairly purposeless again.
no,
No, I
I
don't
thought
think
it
so
was
at all.
rewatching it. I thought it was real important.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've only seen it once, so
I mean, it
you
just established the
please
fact
enlighten
that
me.
it established the fact that life can grow again on Mandalore. It's not
Yeah.
poisoned like they thought because they
In the
did, yeah, they
middle, though,
farmed it.
the specific
that?
layer, because in the specific layer, because if it could grow above, it would be growing above, wouldn't it? I didn't see shit up there except a bunch of giant sandworms and shit. And he said there's predators above and there's poison and predators below. This place is. Why
And
do
yet
we
he
want to
said,
live here?
life persists.
Are you
Life
gonna eat
persists.
moss? Are you
And
gonna graze on moss as the mighty
this one,
Mandalorian
what
raised?
I thought was interesting is twice he emphasized the idea we farmed this. Bo-Katan was like, "Oh, you discovered underground gardens,"
Yeah,
and
she
he
asked, "Oh,
said,
did you
"No,
discover this?" He said, "No, we created this. We
we
farmed it."
farmed this, we cultivated it." It showed that Mandalorians are something beyond
It
their
looked
warrior
absolutely
creed.
delicious. It
So
really did.
who's to say they couldn't
It
do it
looked
on
like
the
they could
surface?
support a whole culture on that.
Yeah, they could. It's the whole point of the season seems to have been that in order to survive, the Mandalorians have to adapt, and they had to get over
Yeah.
the extremes of their warrior culture and come together. And
But
it
have you heard
shows
of
that they can.
hyperspace? How, I mean, can't you order food and just hyperspace it in? It takes 5 freaking minutes. Why do they need to grow everything for? I mean, did you see the surface? Is I the only one who saw the surface of the planet? It might as well be poison. There's nothing growing there. I mean, if they have one little layer, like, is that cave going to support everyone as they bring more people in?
No, I just thought it was important in making a statement about how they were
Yeah,
evolving. So
they're going to eat
it's
Soylent
just like,
Green. It's disgusting. It's like the crackers made from moss or something.
no.
Trader, I seem to have totally disgusted you. What do you have to say?
Apparently, we're discussing the worst episode of television history.
He's given up.
It is the worst thing ever.
He's given up.
Do not watch this show, people. The Mandalorian is awful.
Oh, it is. It is. No, there's just things I didn't get. It was. I was glad that the sequence was short. That was the best thing about it. Was it was mercifully short, but and it was, it was cool, I guess, to see that there's hope for them or whatever. But it didn't look like much hope to me.
I guess.
Well, he literally said above and below there is death. There is
The
death
return
above
of the
us and below us.
Mandalorians. Hello.
Yeah.
They gotta have something to return to.
Yep. True. Chia pet.
So, no, I thought that sequence was fine. And I thought it was important for establishing what
I
was going
agree.
on with the overall Mandalorian culture throughout. And it was short. Like you said, it was mercifully short. So
And I guess those guys who
Mhm.
stayed behind probably know how to farm or cultivate stuff better than any of the others. So that will probably add to their worth in the new culture they're starting or whatever.
Yeah.
They can show people how to survive on the planet or whatever.
Yeah, but they have to get beyond the obsession. That's part of what's been going on with the two factions uniting and with the changes in the armor, that they have to be willing to get beyond the obsession with certain aspects of their warrior culture in order to adapt to current conditions and survive. And one of the interesting things in that conversation too was that he mentioned it didn't even sound like the loss of plant life was the fault of the Empire. It was the fault of the Mandalorians. He said these are native species that existed before the hundreds years of civil war or whatever. Now that the planet has been abandoned, they've been allowed to come back, so that seemed like it was just one little throwaway sentence.
And I don't want to, I've already derailed enough with this cave sequence, but I don't understand the timeline of the Mandalorians, because in the Clone Wars, they were trying to live peacefully. They had lots of citizens with not wearing armor. They were just wearing normal clothes in cities, and they kind of were. They had an undercurrent. It was kind of like the Japanese culture, Bushido culture, in the turn of the century and before World War II. Like there was a call to go back to it, and it did end up being catastrophic for them. But they had moved on from being an isolationist, warrior culture into other stuff. But anyway, so yeah, I don't really understand the timeline. I have to educate myself on that, but I don't really get how that all works, because it seemed like Satine and people like her were trying to lead them in a peaceful way that was more constructive and everything. It wasn't just constant warfare on the main planet.
No, it wasn't. They had moved on from that, but
yeah,
the Death Watch were still outcasts. I mean, they were still living up
Yeah.
on Concordia, and they had their cult, and they were the ones who were always,
And
we
people
need to be we
sympathized
need to
with
be a
them, yeah.
warrior people. We are no longer,
Yeah.
we don't believe in this pacifism, that Satine, espouses. We're all about warrior culture. That's like they wanted to be like the Nordic Vikings, where going out and conquering and being these
Maybe the
this
Civil War was before that.
right. I'm thinking it was,
That's what
yeah,
it
Before that.
sounded like.
We
Yeah.
need somebody who's an expert on that stuff. But
yeah.
but anyway, moving on from that, they had the sequence within the cave, and then Axe, I think, contacted them, or somebody contacted them, right, and said reinforce. Oh, it was the armorer, proving
Yeah,
she's
the
not a
armorer
traitor.
said they've
Said your
arrived.
reinforcements
Your
are
reinforcements are here, yeah.
And so they all gear up and take off, which is another cool sequence. Every time the
Yeah.
Mandalorians all fly in formation or go
Yeah,
somewhere,
that was
it's
really
pretty
great.
cool.
Yeah,
And
the drop ships stuff never gets old.
since
seeing
we've only
those-
got one episode left, all the discussion is short, and it's back to kicking ass and attacking the base again.
Yeah.
and seeing Bo-Katan and the armor fly into battle side by side with Bo-Katan bringing out the dark saber to lead the charge, and
Mhm.
then seeing the armor with her hammer and tongs taking down opponents in mid-flight was
Yeah, it was
just
great.
something
Really well
I didn't
shot.
expect. That was
Yeah,
really,
I
really
enjoyed
cool.
that. That was cool.
I've
So yeah,
read a lot of comments online of people saying that was dumb, that the armor was hitting people with a hammer, flying around hitting people with a hammer. And I said, have you not seen Thor? It's the premise of several movies right there. A guy flying around with a hammer and hitting people. So
yeah, exactly.
And besides,
thought it was
that's always
awesome.
been her
Yeah.
weapon of choice. And when
Right,
she
yeah.
knows how to wield it, you
Yeah,
would think
exactly.
she would
It's
be
not
able
That's
the
to
what
first
wield
makes
time
them
she's
so
used it.
nasty.
Yeah.
When they're flying with their jetpacks, they still can engage in hand-to-hand any kind of combat they want,
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, I thought that was I know we were all kind of wowed by that whole sequence when they're all,
Mhm.
and it was violent. Like she stuck the dark saber through a
Right
guy's
through the
back
guy's
and out his
chest from the
chest.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, all right then.
Yeah. Very, very violent, vicious. So yeah, so we're getting now towards that sort of climactic battle here. We've got the reinforcements led by the armor coming in to help Bo-Katan, and we've got Axe bringing he gets attacked by the squadron of TIE interceptors and bombers. He tries to take out some of those and starts to fly the flagship down directly towards the base. So meanwhile, we've got finally the confrontation between Gideon and the Mandalorian, who Din Djarin has just basically destroyed. We find a whole room full of Gideon clones.
Right.
So he sets that, as always, the convenient self-destruct button.
Right, the overload.
Yeah.
It's like all
That's
Imperial
everything.
wiring is done by some half-ass electrician where you can
Yeah.
you can just let's
Anybody
just
can
change
just
these wires right
just-
here.
I'll just press these two buttons and it'll
Yeah,
destroy everything.
it's
we've
like
worked
the
years
old Doctor
for.
Who, reversed the polarity of the neutron flow was the answer for everything. How are we going to disable this base? I'll just reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. And yeah, he had the conveniently exploding capsules of clone juice and clones inside. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that for a second. How did you guys feel about Gideon having clones of himself and this being the revelation?
I don't know. I mean, I'm to the point where I'm kind of over the whole cloning thing.
Yeah.
I just feel like the Mandoverse is just all about cloning, and I don't know. And I feel like it makes it too easy to get out of any situation, because now no matter what happens, it was just a clone,
It's
There was
all
a
about
clone.
cloning.
or we can replace this person because they've got a clone of them.
But hey, this isn't just the Mandoverse, isn't it? Kind of all of Star Wars.
This all Star Wars has been
prequels?
overtaken by the clones. Yeah.
It's gotten that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and to me, I separate the whole the clone aspect of the Clone Wars and the prequels and all that from what's going on now. This whole Palpatine Snoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just, to me, the two are not even. I know they are, but in my head canon or whatever, they're not the same thing.
No. No, the minute somebody produces an army of clones,
Yeah.
it becomes that shouldn't happen again. That was a thing for the Clone Wars alone.
Right.
In my
Yeah.
mind. Yeah. Although the possibilities there, it was like a one-off based on this Camino stuff that the Emperor wrecked all that on purpose so that nobody
Yeah.
could do it again. Do it. And but I did think there was some interesting elements about that. One being that clone opened his eyes, the one that Grogu freaked
Right.
out Grogu, and it made me wonder a couple of possibilities. And I've already been burned multiple times by speculation and expectations. So, but it made me wonder if maybe that was Gideon in there, the real
Yeah, I
Gideon.
wondered that too, because even Mando said that's not Moff Gideon, that's just one of his clones. And
Yeah,
then
but
he
when he opened his
eyes.
eyes, he seemed
Yeah.
more developed and ready to go than the others.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
you know, maybe a maniacal clone who had Gideon's personality stuck him in there as a punishment, you know, and took over his place. Also, the other possibility is that clone, since he was aware and awake when was ready to come out, and when they evacuated the clone juice on the floor or whatever, that he
he
actually
was
flopped
out
out and
and
was
going,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And since
yeah.
there was like many blast doors between him and what happens at the end, there's
He's
a possibility
protected.
that clone
Yeah,
survived. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I could see
that was
that.
what I was kind of thinking. But I do think you know, Gideon's experiments, at least they revealed something
Yeah.
instead of keeping it all completely hidden. So I'll give him credit for that. It's not exactly the way I was expecting things, but again, it's what happened, and
I
it is
think
what it is.
it was
So
kind of in keeping with the egomaniacal character of Gideon that we got by the end of the series. And I did like how he was kind of weeping over the loss of his
yeah,
clones.
he
They,
smothered
they
them.
were
Yeah.
smothered before they could even take a
Even
breath.
take their first breath. Yeah.
It's like, let's go find the Beskar tiniest violin on Mandalorian. Play it
Right.
for you, Moff Gideon.
And it was all an attempt to imbue himself with the force. He
Mhm.
said he mentioned he wanted to create an army, but he also wanted to, they carried the best parts of himself except for the one thing that he lacked, the force. So it
And
was
he
all,
mentioned last episode the Jedi, the Mandalore.
yeah.
He said every culture will contribute. So
Mhm.
I guess he's old enough to have seen the Jedi and everything and know what they bring to the table, and he wanted those abilities for himself, I guess.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works in his mind though, because a clone is not him.
The clone is not
Yeah.
him. That's why I
Yeah.
And
can't
then
get
you
my head
let
wrapped
him
around
loose,
either.
and
Yeah.
how do you control him? You know,
Right.
Did he have another technology for transferring his consciousness
Transferring his
into the clone?
consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
that's what the Emperor evidently did. Unless you're
Right.
already a powerful Sith, you're not gonna. I mean, a very very powerful Sith, you're not gonna do that, obviously. So
Yeah.
I don't know. He
Yeah.
seemed delusional at the end. Something he got hold of some of that Mandalorian moss or whatever,
Yeah.
chewed on it, and lost his marbles. But anyway, so yeah, we get just a huge mess of clone juice and parts on the floor, and they run out of that room. And then it's the boss fight, like you said. The door opens and closes on its own, and you know we're in the final boss level. And Gideon's talking with an echoing voice and all that was really cool. And he's
Oh
weeping
yeah.
over his clones. And it all leads me to the question: well, where were you, Gideon? What was so important? You
Right.
just let them spend 15 minutes getting through your screen warriors,
Yeah.
and you just hung
Yeah.
out. You just hung out on the other side of the door, like, you know, wait, they're not
Yeah,
are they
waiting
through
for
them
you to
yet?
show
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Why didn't you go join in and protect your clones,
Yeah, because
or
he could
activate them and let
even,
them fight for themselves or something?
yeah, he even saw where they were going on the
Well, there was only one
monitor.
way. It was
Yeah.
right here, this way to the clones, you know,
Then he said,
through all these
I
giant
will,
screens.
his warrior said, you want us to deploy? And he said, no, I will take care of them myself, and then left. And then it took him like 15 minutes to get there.
Right.
Oh no, I'm going into a Greedo rant.
Yeah, you're slipping into Greedo land.
Yeah, I want to see Thrawn appear. And Moff Gideon, perhaps you can explain to us what was so important that you had to delay
He
going
had
to rescue your
he had to go to the
clones.
bathroom or something in all that
Yes.
armor.
Mando usually walks everywhere. I thought he'd be walking. He ran. Threw me off. But yeah, you know, all that aside, this conversation with Gideon and Mando is totally badass, right? I mean, I think we can all agree.
Yeah,
Especially
absolutely.
when Mando just tries to take him out with his helmet off, you know, like and he fires the rocket back
He
at him. And
immediately fires the
he
rocket
says,
back at
okay, I'm
him.
putting the
Yeah.
helmet on now. I'm
Right.
done with my speechifying, and time to whoop your
Yeah.
ass. And so anyway, they have a fight in this room that spills out. I guess the other side of the command room, because you open the door where you originally it's like his command center. You open the door from the other side, and so this is another thing that I don't want to keep belaboring this crap, but this whole base and the whole enter through the screens and go through all these traps and the clones to get to the command center, and then there's just a door leading back to the front door, back to the place you started. You know where all the ships are. This is right there. It's like yeah, I guess there's a sign. Don't go through this door. No matter what you do, you got to go through the other way and check into all the screens and stuff. That just made absolutely no sense. And they even had to like hack and find out where the command center was. It was right there. You were right next to it. You know,
Go through
from the
the
very
storms
beginning.
from all the barriers.
You could have just stepped around the wall, and there was Gideon like waiting. You know, like, wonder when they're gonna get through all my troops and clones. Oh, what? You know, it's just so weird how they did that. But he had to be in place for the final battle where everybody could join in or whatever. But
Yeah.
hey, logistics aren't the Mandalorian, aren't Disney Star Wars strong suit at all.
No.
But so what did you guys think about the ending here with these characters? We got
I liked
Grogu,
the
Mando.
fight. Well, wait, we get Grogu taken away by the Praetorian guards.
right.
In
Well, he
the
comes in and saves
IG-12
him by
suit.
saying no,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
Yeah,
Right.
he comes in and saves Mando.
Which
at the end,
again,
and then-
what are the Praetorian guards thinking? They have a guy down on the ground who's extremely dangerous.
yeah, and
And
why
they
are
turn
they
to
going after
go
the
get
baby?
distracted. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, with a little 3 foot tall, 2 foot tall thing in an IG suit.
it was terrifying seeing the shot of him stumbling off beyond that door with them approaching him, and Mando couldn't do anything to help. And I did like
I loved that shot.
I
Thought it was
did-
hilarious.
I did
Mhm.
like how when they got him into the room by himself and he's flipping and running around and trying to remember what Luke Skywalker taught him and trying to evade.
I seriously wanted to hear the voiceover in his head, you know, like Obi-Wan, Luke's voice. Use the
Begin-
Force, Grogu.
Begin
Jump.
flipping
Yeah.
Remember what I
out.
taught you. Jump, jump.
But the moment when I wasn't expecting the moment when they cut down that thing in the beam fell on top of Grogu. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until I rewatched it that I saw he used the Force to stop it right
To
before
stop
it
it
hit
from
him.
hitting
Well, he had that.
Yeah.
He had that big
Recognize
Beskar
that.
plate over his chest anyway that she gave
Oh,
the
I
armor
forgot.
gave.
Right, she's got that.
Yeah, so-
And that chainmail suit, whatever it is, like the
Yeah, I
Star Wars
forgot.
mithril or whatever.
But the first time watching that, this seemed pretty brutal. Like the puppet is crushed. So that sequence was cool. But what I thought was the best was when Bo-Katan came in later, and the three of them and Grogu came out, and or Mando went and saved Grogu, and the three of them worked together to try to bring down Moff Gideon. I really liked that part. I liked how Grogu used the Force for defense and protection of others.
Right. I remember you pointed that out a lot during our reaction video. You're like, using it for
Yeah.
defense, just use it for defense. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
That's
just
basically
felt
what he was
like
doing.
Yoda's original teaching filtered through Luke,
Mhm.
finally hit the mark with Grogu. And it almost made me feel good about a kind of overall evolution in his character.
Yeah.
And this is where I feel kind of torn again. Part of me went into this season thinking the rumors about Grogu turning to the dark side or something happening to Mando, and how cool that might be, or Grogu taking the dark saber, and doing something horrible. But that wasn't gonna happen, that really wasn't gonna happen. And I really liked how they had set up that potential so well with him using moments where he force choked people when he didn't really understand how to control his emotions. And I liked seeing how Luke's teaching had given him some sense of control and the honorable use of the Force against someone who was trying to basically steal the Force for nefarious purposes. And I think there was even a reaction shot to Grogu whenever Moff Gideon said that they have everything that I have, except for the one thing I've lacked, the Force, and I've tried to find a way to control it, and to incorporate it. And it was almost like Grogu at that moment realized, dude, that's not the way to do it. That's
Right.
not the way it happens. and that kind of instigated his appropriate use of the Force throughout the rest of that final sequence. So I really like that. I as much as I kind of like the idea of Grogu force choking somebody, you know, or throwing some bodies around or something. I thought, you know, the Mandos are there to kind of do the rough work.
Right. They're
like
the ones that
that.
are there to
So,
do all that
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
stuff. Exactly. Yeah.
I
No,
gotta take I gotta take a second and just applaud Gundark and bow to you. That here I am belaboring the Mandalorian Moss Cave, and you're going deep on Grogu's evolution as a Jedi and protector of the legacy of the Force and all this stuff. And I never thought of that stuff. That's really excellent points all the way
No, they
around.
really are.
I mean, I just felt echoes of Yoda throughout. I really did. I kept thinking that. But and then finally, when he uses the Force to protect them from the explosions, kind of a callback to the first season when he used it to hold off the fire, to
And to
help
Rebels.
save them. Yeah, yeah. So all of that I thought was really cool, and it also kind of gives an idea of what a future season might be if he and Mando work together as Lone Wolf and Cub. You know, their skills will kind of balance each other out. So I like that aspect of it too, the cooperation between the characters and fighting.
Jeez.
Yep. Very good. Yeah, I like the whole last sequence, as far as the fight sequence, for all the reasons mentioned already. You know, I like the coordination between, like you said, you know, Din's trying to stave off 3 Praetorian guards, but obviously he needs Grogu's help, and Grogu's just basically like Gundark said, he's, you know, just making weapons fly away from them, or pushing them away from it, and obviously that what would have been the killing blow when the one that was coming down to almost basically chop, you know, Din's, you know, neck or head off, he just uses the Force to stop, you know, and force his blade back up. I thought that was really a nice touch on that episode. And then meanwhile, we've got, you know, him fighting with the Praetorian Guards. We've got Bo facing off against Gideon, which was another
That was a
really
very cool fight, I thought.
really cool
Yeah.
fight. The way with her with the dark saber, and of course we can't go any farther really without talking about the fate of the dark saber. You know, we had it destroyed basically at this point. It doesn't look like it's coming back from that. Because not only was it, I mean, it was shattered. He shattered it, you know, with the hilt completely crunched. It's like a U shape now. It's completely crunched and shattered and gone. It fell to the ground and pieces fell off of it, you know. So that's interesting to say. I looked at that a little symbolically. I think that we're gonna look at that now as like, well, they don't need something like a dark saber to lead them anymore now that they have come together as a unit. They're, you know, the 2 factions have sort of teamed up. But I still think the Mythosaur is going to play a role in this in future seasons, as far as who leads Mandalore and things like that. But I really enjoyed the last whole fight sequence and the way they choreographed that and everything, and everybody's role that they played in it. I thought it was well balanced and really well done.
The thing about the Darksaber, the one thing that disappointed me was that it was so easily destroyed,
Yeah,
even though
I
it was
agree.
that souped up armor that Gideon used to do it. It was
Because this is
just,
something that's been around for literally, you know,
yeah,
millennia, you know,
yeah.
And
and
not
I
then
only
just
think
like
that,
that,
it
Moff Gideon
had
just
to
goes
go,
snap
but
and it's
maybe,
done.
yeah, maybe not that quickly. It had to go, but
Yeah.
maybe not that
and not only
easily.
that, but in the book of Boba Fett, Din Djarin says to the armor, "This is made of a Beskar I've never seen before, a
Mhm.
Beskar quality I've never seen before." When he brings a dark saber to her, which would imply it's you would think it's super
Yeah,
strong, even more than.
Right, it's stronger than
yeah.
regular Beskar. Yeah.
And if it's going to be crushed inside her hand, and he's crushing it from the outside, certainly her hand would be,
Yeah, with
you
her
Her
know,
hand
hand would be
crushed.
destroyed.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought all the whole episode somebody's losing a hand.
Right. That's the
A
Star
bunch of
Wars
times, like
way.
cables wrapped around the wrist, or the
But what about, you mentioned it being gone now, and felt it was right that it needed to go for them to have leadership beyond a symbolic blade,
Mhm.
that almost seemed to divide their culture to some degree. But just struck me, if the kyber crystal is still there, and you've got an armor, and you've got a
You can
Jedi,
rebuild it.
if
Yeah.
Grogu could Grogu maybe rebuild the dark saber in the future?
That's what I was thinking. Is
Possibly. Yeah.
leaving the door open for. There's a Mythosaur. There's another
Yeah.
Jedi Mandalore crossover that's going to bring these things together, like the original character who forged the Darksaber did. And I also want to say, I think the Darksaber at this point is pretty tainted by evil. It was used to kill Satine in cold blood, by
Yeah.
Darth Maul.
Mhm.
Darth Maul
I think
wielded it.
the fact that its power corrupted so many people, they were willing to look at it as a symbol and put aside their own ideals to follow power, just naked power. Whoever strong enough to wield the dark saber is going to be our leader. We don't need to win a dark saber to prove your strength, you know,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing is twisted. Eventually leads to evil, unless you just happen to have the strongest person happens to have a great character, you know. Usually,
Oh,
though, that's not the case. So
that kind of works into also the taunt that Moff Gideon gave to Bo-Katan at the end, where he said, "The Darksaber's gone. The Mandalorians are weak without their trinkets."
Mhm.
And then she said the Mandalorians are stronger together. You know, it was more like they needed to do away with that reliance on those things to be able to come together and fight him. And it's just all that coming out of the mouth of a dude who's in a souped up
it's
Mandalorian
right.
armor. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
The guy who just talked about stealing all their best trinkets.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And the whole time he's been, give me the dark saber. Oh, I broke the
Yeah,
dark saber.
yeah.
Well, I meant to do that. But yeah, I will say also the dark saber went out like a boss in a way, because I love the shots in the background of her just wailing on his armor. She hit him across the face, and it's like it left a big red, you know, scathing mark that cooled off instantly. Like but I mean, she would have killed him several times over if he hadn't
Yeah.
Oh
had
yeah,
that armored
absolutely.
suit with the. She was hitting him in the chest, and
Yeah,
I
she
mean,
was
over and
landing
over,
killing blows left
disemboweled
and
him.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was protected, and he was very lucky, because a lot of people said, I read online, that they were upset that Gideon beat Bo-Katan, but really he didn't. He just had a
No.
better defense than she did.
Right.
I think skill wise, she was by far the better warrior. I also wanted to say I loved it when she ended up without the helmet. Somebody needed to be right at the end
Yeah.
to give us some
Mhm.
emotion. And when she that last scene where she screamed and ran at him with the shield when he's firing on them, it showed what a fighter she is, really, and kind of her fierce spirit, that even though it looked like she was going to die, um surrender was not an option. You know, there was
Yeah.
no more talking or anything. I also love the fact that, you know, we Axe is bringing the ship down on the base, which we
Yeah.
all laughed about that, because he tells him at the last second,
Right.
everybody step to the left
Yeah,
3
I'm
feet.
taking out the base. You mean the
Yeah, there's
place
a
where
ship coming
everybody
out.
is?
Yeah. Which base? Oh, the one we're in.
Oh.
But yeah, but hey, we won the base. Oh crap, you know. But no, the fact that what was I gonna say? I don't even know anymore. But the fact that he's coming down there. Oh, this is what it was. And everybody's leaving, but there's no question. Bo-Katan,
not gonna
Grogu,
ride. Yeah.
Din, and Gideon aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
They're like, this is where this ends. We're locked in combat, and we always know death could be a penalty, and we're not. We don't give a crap at this point. We're fighting
Yeah.
to the end. I love that. I love
I
fights to the
did
death,
too.
where the stakes are high. It made you feel like, personally, for these characters, for all of them, the stakes were really high. Like Mando said, we cannot let him get away
Yeah.
this time. This is never going
Right.
to end until and you know, I guess he felt the same way. It's like, but yeah, that whole sequence was great. Again, where were the fighters? Did they just stay in space? Why didn't they come down and shoot down the capital ship before it was used? There's so many plot holes and everything. You know, if some other faction had showed up and engaged the fighters, it would have made more sense.
Mhm.
But you know, this is the show. I said it from season 1. It's like I've been battling my expectations on the show from the beginning, and the show over and over again shows us what it's about, and we continue to expect a little more. You know, I think the ending of season 2 is so epic that it threw me off. Like, I'm
Yeah.
expecting some crazy reveal and something they've hidden from us and everything. But at its heart, the show is more like how this episode ended, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it's more about R5 coming in and saving the day or whatever. You know, it's just not going to abandon those things. It's going to keep using those funny, goofy, slow things. But
Yeah.
anyway, so Moff Gideon evidently dies, right?
That
There's an
fight,
explosion.
possibly.
That's what they're having us to believe. Yes.
Yeah. And Grogu raises a force shield. The fire goes all around them, but
Right.
they're
And he basically,
okay.
that's
Kind of like
the
the end of
same.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Well, that's the same technique if you think about it that ended up killing Kanan
Yes,
And
that's why I said it was a
Oh,
reference to
yeah.
Rebels.
right,
yeah.
right, right. The reference to Rebels, yeah, because that's what ended up killing him because he was saving all his friends. Doing that
Kanan
same
almost looked
trick.
like to me like he slowed time down or something. It was crazy. Like
It was
Yeah.
the
weird, yeah.
explosion actually slowed down. Maybe he was just containing it, but I always thought it was
Mhm.
cool that he did this crazy
Almost like a
thing
time
where
warp
he
thing, yeah.
stretched out time to where they could get away or something.
Right.
But maybe it was just the way to illustrate what was happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's cool that everybody got to do something. Grogu
Mhm.
got to help out. It felt organic. It's like stuff we've seen him do before, and we know can be done with the Force. There was nothing that broke the Force or that was
Mhm.
too
Yeah.
radical, and very powerful stuff. And we all said he's getting stronger because he lasted till the end of the fight this time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Doing a lot, using the Force a lot.
And he didn't even
Um,
fall asleep at the end, like
Didn't need
before,
a
like with the
nap.
Rancor, he did the whole thing and then immediately fell asleep. But this time he just kind of sat down and just,
and
He's just a little
everybody
bit winded.
yeah, just a
everybody
little winded.
important, all the important characters we know about got out of the way.
Yeah.
And Axe even saved himself. He like blew out a window
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
went out the window at the last second, which I was very shocked by.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he must have pictures of Dave Filoni or something, or John Favreau. But and so then Gideon's engulfed in flames, into him as far as we know. And Mandalore's retaken by the Mandalorians. I think that's where it jumps forward a little bit, right? And they're
Yeah.
all reigniting the forge and
Yeah, they're reading
doing
at the
their
forge, and then we're at the back to the living waters, where they're back to, I guess, what happened in episode 1, where
Mhm.
the Vizsla's kid is taking the oath, and this time they conveniently left out the "I will not take off my helmet" line,
Yeah.
which
yes,
I don't
yeah.
know if that's. I'm sure that's probably foreshadowing for the future, that they're going to
Yeah.
maybe change or get a little lax on some of those rules. But
Mhm.
but yeah, and then that moves into, of course, the scene of
Oh,
Din
wait,
Djarin
wait.
saying, "What's that?"
Him adopting Grogu, was
Yeah,
that what you were gonna do?
yeah,
Yeah. We
yeah, because
can't
he goes
forget that.
into basically saying that he's no longer a foundling; he's now my apprentice. But she said he can't even talk because the armor is, he can't even speak, so he's too young. But if his parents gave permission, and yeah, but his parents are far away from here, so he just decides to adopt him, and they get the affirmative answer of this is the way. So she has now, officially written him into song, as they like to say on the show now. Um,
Even though there's no
They don't sing.
no evidence Mandalorians ever sing or have any
ever
music
seeing, yeah.
whatsoever.
You would think they were the dwarves in Lord of the Rings
I
or the Hobbit,
love the armor though. I love how she lets people figure out their own way. She'll bring up stuff like she's like, well, he's too, he can't speak the creed, so he can't become an apprentice.
Mhm.
And well, what if his parents, she doesn't even look at men, she's looking away
Yeah.
and she lets him figure it out. And well, what if his parents, were to do, well, his parents are not here, they're far away, we don't. And so it was almost like she's letting
Yeah.
him figure
And she
out his
does that. She does
time.
that multiple times in multiple
Yes.
episodes. She's been doing that for a
Yeah.
long time, and I like that
I
that
like
about her
that style
style.
of her
Like making
leadership.
the
Yeah.
person she's talking to figure it out for themselves. She's not just going to tell them, like, this is
Yeah.
what you
Mhm,
have to do.
mhm.
She
Yeah.
gives them just the right questions to make them think, oh, well, what if I do this? Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
And
good
that's
I
point.
why
do.
I'm not so sure that, we were talking about her allowing Bo-Katan to go without the helmet and how shocking that was. And it seems like it's not consistent with her character overall. I'm not so sure of that. I've been rewatching the series, and it seems like every time she has a significant scene, she's kind of finding a middle road between two extremes of other characters,
Mhm.
like Paz and Mando fighting at the beginning over the Beskar armor that has the Imperial signia on it that Mando has brought to her, to be forged. It's like, that came from the Empire. Paz wanted
Right.
to kick Mando's ass, and she just lets that happen. And then at the end of it, she says that the Beskars returned to us, so we will
Right.
use it for this and this. Or when she finds out that Grogu may be a Jedi, and the Jedi at
Mhm.
one point were their ancient enemies, and yet that doesn't automatically make her say, well, he can't join us, he can't, whatever. She finds ways to kind of negotiate extreme sides. And so
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that her allowing Bo-Katan, of all of them, to come out without the helmet, it is inconsistent, because she seems like she's adaptable when she sees something is needed in order to survive.
Mhm.
So they're at the point where she just got word from Bo-Katan that Bo-Katan had gone to Mandalore, saw that it was livable, saw the mythosaur, and that there are other Mandos out there with a lot of money and a lot more weaponry and with power. And if they want to retake their planet, this is their opportunity, but you're going to have to accommodate those other Mandos. So you can't demand that they're all be wearing their masks all the time. So
Mandos, plural.
it almost seems like that's kind of a natural response from her character, that
Mhm.
even though she's the leader of this kind of cult mentality of the creed, she finds ways to negotiate it to their ultimate long-term advantage, if that
Right.
makes sense. So
Yeah.
I don't know, I didn't find that so
I'm
inconsistent.
not going to disagree with you, but I will say you're wrong. But I won't disagree with you in your wrongness. But no, I actually think there's all those points have a lot of merit, but I never saw the armor as being a particularly reasonable character, and she also used Bo-Katan as a lesson of how what not to
Yeah.
do if you're a
Yeah.
Mandalorian, so specifically, you know, like
She was a cautionary tale.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
cautionary tale. So I just found the whole thing a little baffling. Like I still don't really understand it. It seemed like the kind of compromise that the armor stood against all this time. Like when they were down to 2 people, she didn't even break a sweat. She's like, "This is the
Yeah.
way, you know, this is the way."
Mhm. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, she was gonna
Yeah,
cast
they
down.
were
She was
down
gonna
in a
cast out the other guy. They only had 2 people left. A third person
Yeah,
yeah, we got
comes
3
along and
people.
she
We
yeah,
have 2 people now because of the way, you know.
you got a point.
Yeah. Yeah, it just it doesn't strike me at all as consistent. But I think an extra scene from the armor's point of view, they left her more of an enigma. If we
Yeah.
had a little bit of an explanation, but all they did was have her say to the congregation her reasoning, and that was it. You know,
Mhm.
nobody questioned her, and so we didn't get any further elaboration on why she did that. But I do think from what I know of this cult that came, you know, the whatever the children or whatever they're called,
Children of the
Children of the
Watch.
Watch.
Mhm.
Yeah, it came from Death Watch, I'm pretty sure,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't seem everything that they established about them. It doesn't seem. I don't think they'd want to share a culture and bring the Mandalorians that failed. You got to remember these Mandalorians with the helmet that take the helmets off have failed over and over again.
Fail. Yeah, they're prosthetics.
So why would they want to bring them? If you're a fanatic, you think there's 15 of us, we can do this.
Yeah.
You know, we are the
Right.
way. You know, we don't need these
Mhm.
400 people with their
I'm just
contemptible
not so
ways
sure
corrupting
she's a
us.
fanatic.
Yeah,
And
I'm not
she
so sure anymore either. I don't know.
Yeah.
I never was quite sure from the beginning. She always had kind of a regal restraint about her that seems kind of at odds with fanaticism. So I
Maybe
don't
she
know.
just really wanted to get back to the Great Forge, you know, like
Yeah.
it's right there.
Whatever it takes.
But that's why her betrayal wouldn't have surprised me much if it was against specifically the other Mandalorians.
Yeah.
Like if she had allowed them to die and not gone to help them or something at the last second, and then the only ones left standing were her Puritans or whatever, I could totally see that being justifiable to her, you know, because of their history and everything and her beliefs. But I think it was more or less they decided that this was going to be about the Mandalorians uniting, and so they just kind of swept a few things under the Beskar rug or whatever, and it is what it is, you know. So it worked out for the most part, but it's still so many plot holes in the whole Mandalorian culture and everything, and so many things I just don't really get. So I guess it's just one more thing, but it was cool seeing them all, you know, coming back from being desperate and wandering and seeing the devastation of their planet to standing kind of
Yeah,
proud
actually
again.
having a focused goal to
Yeah,
look
and when
toward, to
they're
move
all
towards.
bashing their wrist armors together and saying
Yeah, that
Mandalore,
Yeah.
was
Mandalore,
cool.
For
Mandalore.
Mandalore, for
Yeah.
Mandalore. Yeah, that was cool.
It was cool. But if I was Bo-Katan, I still would watch my back. Is all I'm gonna say. We could start next season in a completely different place than where we ended
Yeah,
this one.
exactly. Exactly. One other note on the adoption scene. I thought it was interesting that the armorer says apparently this is part of the way as well. She's like, well, now that you've adopted him, you have to take him on his
Oh
journey.
yeah.
Just like
How many
your
journeys does this kid
yeah,
get to
just
go
like he's
on?
already been on 1,000 journeys, like just like your master did with you or whatever. Like,
Who is
okay.
that? Who is
Yeah.
Mando's mentor?
Yeah, we
that
haven't
got
even
me?
seen
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
You must take him to Six Flags over Concordia. Um, but yeah, that the adoption thing. I thought it was interesting that Den is the family name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Din's family
Jaren
name because now
evidently
he's
is the
Din
original
Grogu.
name.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool and unexpected.
Yeah. I
Um,
like that.
again I don't get it. I don't get where the adoption thing came from. I don't get why he doesn't have to wear a helmet.
Yeah.
Is it because no one
Yeah.
has to if they don't want to now, or is it because he's some extra level below the helmet thing still?
Yeah.
Because it seems like you're a foundling and then you're an apprentice and you should
And you're
wear a
wearing a
helmet.
helmet.
Right.
None of that was addressed, and left
Yeah.
me very confused. But I also am just willing to enjoy myself with the episode and not worry too much about it. But when you set these rules, I do feel like you should try to be consistent to them, and I gotta deduct a little bit for them just not even explaining or trying to be consistent with it.
Yeah. Yeah, me
But
too.
it was kind of heartwarming to see him officially become his dad, though. I mean, we all
Yeah.
knew he was his dad anyway, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
was I thought it was a touching little moment that
Yeah.
they made it official.
And then do they, is that when they go back to Navarro and
No,
work?
they go
Oh,
to
wow.
the rebel base, or I'm keeping
Oh,
on the rebel. It's the New
yeah.
Republic base,
Okay, yeah.
where
The Adelphi base or
the
whatever.
Delphi base. Yeah, exactly. Where Din Djarin's talking to, what's the pilot's name
Captain
again?
Tava.
Yeah, and
Captain Tava.
they're talking in there, and he's basically, Mando is setting up a deal to where he will be an independent contractor for the New Republic, off the books, under the table, all that. Because I love their little back and forth. He's like, "That's a great idea, but they'll never go for it, and that's why you're not going to tell them about it. And you're just gonna give me jobs here and there, case by case basis. It doesn't mean I work for you. I'm just an independent contractor." I thought that was kind of interesting, that may be where some of where this show is going to be leading next season. And then, of course, we see, Din Grogu seeing the helmet, or not the helmet, but the head of another assassin droid up there, like IG-11. Um, anyway, so Din ultimately takes that as payment for his future work for the New Republic, because he said he wants it for parts, which we get to in basically the next scene. Now, and I know I pointed this out during if you've seen the reaction video we did, you've seen this, but Dave Filoni is sitting in the back of that scene, and you see him. It's not just one quick shot; it's like several shots, usually over the pilot's shoulder the whole time. It's like you can just see, you can even hear his voice a couple of times. I noticed in the din of the voices in the background, you can actually pick out Filoni's voice, which I thought was interesting. Yeah, he's just sitting back there wearing that wide brim hat that he likes, like he's just a New Republic pilot.
Now, I read online that when they showed Adelphi Base in the earlier episode this season, that not only Filoni was there, but also Deborah Chow.
Oh,
And
okay.
who
I could
was
see
the
him
other
doing that.
director?
Rick Fumia.
Yes, Rick.
Yeah.
Yeah. That the three of them were there, and I wondered if they might all three have been there again in this conclusion, but I didn't see
Rick
them.
could have been, because there was a black character sitting there next to Filoni.
Could have been him. Yeah,
but I didn't get
I
a good
haven't
look
seen.
at it.
Yeah, I didn't get
Like
a
I
good
said, I
look.
haven't gone back and watched it again, but
Because they all played Rebel pilots, right? Or not Rebel. What am I saying?
Yeah, New Republic
New
pilots.
Republic
Yep.
pilots.
one thing that's interesting too is that Zeb wasn't there. He was in the
Right.
earlier scene.
He was only in that one cameo, and then he never came back.
So
Yeah.
either he's off on something with the Rebels cast, or they could have had an opportunity there to have the Mandalorian and that character in the same room, thus establishing one more tenuous connection between these different casts and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think the connection's already there between Ahsoka and between these Rebel pilots anyway.
Mhm.
So but yeah, that was a setup for season 4 if they decide to do one. It seemed like, where we're going to go back to kind of, but it's still, if they follow that thread, it'll still be the Empire as an enemy mainly, I guess, or that's the idea. I'm sure they'll branch off from that.
Yeah.
But we'll still get our Imperial ships and maybe some more characters. It also made me think of that that hologram where they were all in a circle, the Imperials on a circle. I wonder if we'll see any of those, like he'll mow any of those and go through this list,
Right.
knocking these guys down one at a time or something.
Yeah, going after him one at a time. That would be neat.
Now that would be neat, because I did like all the Imperials had their own distinctive personalities in that one scene. So it would be neat to see them fleshed out in future episodes.
And also, when you say Empire and Imperials, there's always that chance that he gets tangled up with Thrawn, in the plot with Thrawn or with Hux or something, and we bring in more stuff. I do think, though, their chance to kind of build an overarching Imperial plot. This was it, and it's kind of over, and maybe it is time to do something else a little bit. I wonder if they'll actually even stick with the Empire as the antagonist next season, if they do a next season.
Yeah.
But I almost feel like too this episode in this season kind of cleared the decks. Like I just think they probably felt like Gideon being a mini Thrawn was going to detract from actual Thrawn.
Yeah.
We don't need the same story of them trying to clone and trying to do secret things and trying to, and a genius behind it all. So they kept Gideon as kind of a minor genius who was his hubris really took him out.
Yeah.
And it kind of clears the decks of all this Imperial intrigue and shifts the focus towards whatever's coming next from the Empire, if we're gonna keep using them as antagonists. So, which has got to be Thrawn. I just figure it has to be.
Yeah.
But okay, so he makes that deal, and then we go back to Navarro.
Yeah.
And we get a final scene with Grief Karga and Grief Karga's droid, and Mando reveals that he's brought a gift. Grief gives him the gift of a cabin on the huge tracts of land, and and he says, "I got a gift for you too," and it's the IG. What is he, 31 by now or something?
Yeah, well, he's back to IG-11 again because
Yeah,
he
he
says, "I am IG-11."
Yeah, he said he was IG-11.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he brings with this murder machine to be their sheriff. And I wonder if Grief Karga is strictly abiding by the laws at this point.
Right.
He might be a little nervous with IG-11 as his actual sheriff. Like, I'd want to be in on the programming of that droid. You know what I mean?
Really.
If I'm in charge.
I hope you got some Ugnots to do it for
Right.
you.
The Eskelans or whatever those guys are. It's like, hey, could you slip this corruption chip in there that I have the other matching bit to? But yeah, and he has some cool little stripes. So I'm sure we'll get another IG-11 figure with a repaint, to I can't have enough IG-11s. And the people are just stoked. They're just like so happy as fuck.
Right.
IG-11's
Super happy.
Yeah, they're like, oh, look at this. Oh, I didn't even see him walk up. He just appeared from nowhere. They think it's the greatest magic trick they've ever seen.
For some reason, they adored him because they had a statue to him out in the center
they
of
had
the
a
town
statue.
square.
Like, oh, is this the same droid that has a nuclear reactor at his core that can overload and kill everyone in the 3-mile radius? Oh, it's so good to have him back. But yeah, I thought the reactions were priceless. That was great. So anybody want to say anything about that? I mean, that was fun. That was cool.
The only issue I had with that, and this is just like a minor point, is that
you and the people of Navarro, you just hate it. You're never going to vacation in Navarro.
People in Navarro this time is that I had kind of been waiting for IG-11 to return all season. And I thought he would have a little bit more of a significant interaction with Mando and Grogu. That's what I was hoping for. He just kind of got, oh, I'm IG-11, I'm a what? And then he's gone.
And that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted just a little bit more of that. But that's kind of that's
all of this stuff is like world building. It's not significant world building, but it's like leaving these pieces in place that they're going to come back to later.
Yeah.
And even if Mando and Grogu are taken off the board and you have other characters, they can go to Navarro and you'll see Grief Karga and IG-11 there, and they could get pulled into some, you could have a season of a show where Grief Karga has to reluctantly, I'm having to put my robes down and retake my blaster pistols. IG-11, you're with me, and they go off with some other people and have an adventure or whatever. So they kind of just, we got Jack Black over here. Is he going to release an album? What's he doing? He and Lizzo collaborating. So it's in that spirit of just kind of, and they've been disrupted from a lot of that. Obviously, we were gonna have a Commandos of the New Republic or whatever it was.
Yeah,
Commandos,
Rangers.
Yeah. But so anyway, so he gets huge tracts of land, which results in him being trailer trash basically at the end. Mandalorian, it doesn't. I don't even think it has air conditioning. It probably has a window fan or something. And he's basically got a trailer parked on this tract of land with a little pond for Grogu to get all sloppy.
Levitate frogs.
Yeah. And he's just the only thing we were short of was cracking a beer. Blue milk or whatever. He's kicked back and watching Grogu in the yard. And so what did we think of that ending? Because that was
I was puzzled. I thought it was a bit of a letdown.
puzzled.
It really had a very series finale feel to it.
It did. It
You
did.
know,
Every
like,
season's kind of like that,
and
though, isn't it?
not really. I
Season,
didn't
I
think
thought
so on the
season
first
2
two
was the end of the whole
Season
damn
2,
thing.
yeah.
I was like, wow, that was a great ending. Oh no, it's over. You know, that's why I felt with season 2. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just think that this one really put a bow on everything. You know, yeah, it left the door open for future adventures, but it didn't
Mhm.
leave anything like, oh, we've got to figure out what happens with this, you know. It didn't leave any of that element of cliffhanger or anything to it.
No, I can't really think of
And I
any
have a
stories
feeling
that weren't wrapped up.
that because they're so focused on Ahsoka, that I just think anyway with the unknown of Pedro Pascal, that they're just going to, I really think they're pressing the pause button on Mandalorian for now.
You're gonna shelve it,
And
yeah.
yeah, I think they're gonna, it may be 3 years before we get another season. Who knows?
Yeah, we
Oh.
don't even know. It could have been business as usual
Yeah,
doing this season, or it could have been a complete nightmare. And we
right.
may never know because people may
Yeah.
not honestly come out and tell us. But
Yeah.
if it was a complete nightmare, you're right. I could see them
Shelving it.
just
Yeah.
saying now is not the right time, and we
Mhm.
have this in our back pocket. We can always trot Mando and Grogu out and get eyeballs back and
Just
everything.
like they did Book of Boba Fett, they can suddenly show
Mhm.
up in Ahsoka if we need them
Or
to.
we could, you know,
Yeah.
at Celebration 2 years from now, they could say, and it's the return of the Mandalorian, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and
Right.
get everybody excited. But also, we've got this movie that was announced at Celebration.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like the Filoni and Favreauverse is
Yeah,
going to
the
come
whole,
together in
it's
this
going to be
movie.
like a Avengers Endgame or something. They're
Yeah.
talking about like where all these threads come together for one big finale movie or something.
So before that movie, we probably don't need to see Mando do anything. We can assume he's going around knocking out Imperials for the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Republic. We don't actually have to see that. They're
Right.
he basically has his home and his kid, their family unit, and they could show up in the movie from this point. So you're right. There's really there's not a pressing need
Yeah.
to revisit these characters right now
hmm
or for a while.
Yeah, I think they're just going to keep going with what they're doing with the Ahsoka show now, and that's going to be the main thread, is going to be Thrawn and Ezra and all that, and them moving forward with that, and then eventually, who knows how many years from now, it'll tie back together with the
And we
Mandalorian.
still have Boba Fett out there,
Right. The
which
unknown of that.
just seemed like a happy little, you know, joyride of a series, but they could have plans to continue that, in which case that could be where they kind of tie some of these characters back in for a little jaunt, you know,
Right,
and
right.
and keep some things active on the Mando side of things,
Mhm.
and meanwhile have Ahsoka and all this push into the unknown regions or whatever they're doing, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was kind of a goofy ending in a way, but they went all out. They sold out completely for the happy ending.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do that, then do it, you know,
Mhm.
and that's what they wanted to do. They felt like that was what was best for the Mandalorian series and probably Disney's intellectual properties as a whole.
Yeah.
It's like there are two characters that cannot be harmed in the Disney
Yeah.
Star Wars. And one is Grogu, and we all know who the other one is. And we don't have to say her name. And so those are the inviolate rules, and evidently that's where we're at. So, but the whole cartoonish ending, I think somebody just wanted to do that and didn't really care how we're going to react to it. It's like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and you know, every Star Wars movie ends with the circle closing. But
Yeah.
it's so fast that it doesn't remind you of a Warner Brothers cartoon. This was like a
Yeah,
This one was more like a
it
Warner
was
Brothers because it
slow
went down to the
Iris,
side.
Roger Rabbit.
It actually
Yeah,
went over to
Frank
the
Roger
sides.
Rabbit.
I was like, that's really weird.
Yeah. I expected the frog to do the whole WB song and dance, you know, top hat
Hello,
off the
my
side of the
honey.
screen.
Hello, my ragtime gal.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but you know, I wouldn't have had that be the final image, but somebody got a kick out of it, and I think somebody
Right.
was almost tweaking our noses with it a little bit.
I
And
agree.
it's kind of a wink and a nudge, like you're never going to get away from this. This is
Yeah.
the core of what we're doing. It's still family friendly. It's still about Grogu ending up happy, and
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
and so.
Yeah. All
What
right,
do you
well,
think, Gundark? What do you think of the ending?
yeah. What did you think of the ending?
I was the same. I go back and look at our reaction video.
You watched
and
it 10 times.
and I remember I remember when we were watching it together, we were all like,
Yeah, is that,
Yeah,
is that for real? Is that the end?
Yeah,
Is that a
we were
sniper
kinda
scope, like
speechless at the end
closing
of
on
that.
Grogu, like a sniper
like,
scope, and they're about
what
to take
is
him
it
out?
with the iris there? But so that was kind of a little over the top, goofy, and
Yeah.
maybe a little bit too much happy ending. But at the same time, I don't really mind it feeling like a series finale. If you're going to, just like Grito said, if you're going to give them a happy ending, you go all out. We really care about these characters, and it was good to see Grogu and Mando together and at peace, and
Yeah.
maybe having a little bit of time to really be father and son at peace. So that kind of was nice. And then also the hope maybe of future adventures of them together after you saw them work together so well as a team in this episode. So it worked on those levels for me,
Yeah.
but it was maybe kind of a little silly over the top and everything.
Yeah. I also wondered too, like if he's going to become a bounty hunter again, how's he going to do that with that little N1 starfighter? Because it doesn't really seem to have any room to cart.
Right. You
Yeah,
can't really
yeah.
bring back bounties in
So
that.
is he just going to go kill people
Yeah.
or be like
Yeah.
Batman, leave him hanging, from the lamppost with the tied up with a note on it for
Exactly.
Commissioner Cargo or whatever?
Where to send the check. Yeah.
Yeah. But so
Yeah.
anyway, I guess we're at the end of this, right? Anybody else have anything to
Yeah.
say about the episode overall?
I think it's
We
Then
time to
probably
do
need
our
to do our
ratings.
ratings.
time to rate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who wants to go
X.
first?
X, the unknown.
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
I rated it as an 8.5.
right.
I had last week, I had as a 9, no, as a 9.5, sorry. Leaving possible room for a 10 this week, which didn't happen. And in fact, I brought it back down about a point. So I'm going with an 8.5.
I am too.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
was struggling between 8.5 and 8. Just because of my reservations with the things like the bait and switch at the beginning of Mando being so quickly rescued, and I wanted maybe some more sacrifice to up the stakes for the retaking of Mandalorian for the series as a whole. And then to some degree, just the inconsistencies that Greta was talking about with the overall depiction of Mando and his evolution. If there had even been just something that would allow them to address the helmet issue with him, because it was such an important part of the last season as part of the evolution of his character, that he was willing to remove the helmet, even if they could have had like a conversation between him and Moff Gideon in this final episode, that might have alleviated a little bit of that. But it felt too much like it's just reset on that point, without addressing things. But it's still, overall, it was a spectacularly produced episode. I really, really enjoyed it. Some of the best Star Wars live action ever. Never imagined I would see something like the Mandalorians in flight like that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
that was wonderful.
really, really good.
So 8.5 for
Okay.
me.
All right. Just remember, my ratings are just personal to me. They don't mean anything. It's not a 10 isn't saying it's the greatest thing that's ever been, and a 1 isn't, well, 1's pretty bad. But anyway, just my personal rating. It doesn't mean anything. I'm going to give it a 7, and I want to go higher. And if we're going on production alone, I would put it at like a 9. I would still ding it a little bit because there was some very weird editing and some moments that I just don't even understand why they weren't cleaned up, that were jarring in the episode. But production wise, as far as costumes, effects, the composite, effect shots and the action, especially the stunt work and everything was just top notch. I mean, this is a TV show at the end of the day. It's a streaming TV show. And the production was amazing. I give it at least a 9. But the inconsistencies on the story end and on the just things taking me out of the moment. Also, I just felt like the stakes were not high enough. They just it had all the pieces in play. But unless you have a history of being invested in Mandalore, not just the Mandalorian himself, but Mandalore and this plot line, like you've watched Rebels, you've watched Clone Wars, I just don't think it'd be as meaningful to a lot of people about them retaking Mandalore. It's almost like a throwaway plot point almost. It should have had more personal significance for Din Djarin to retake Mandalore. It should have had more about the ones who've been disowned coming back and owning it. I also have an issue with a cult being the heroes in a way. I know that's really weird because the Jedi are a cult, the Jedi are a cult, but we accept them. But I just feel like the way cult is a harmful cult, I can't get over that feeling. So for them to be totally neutered to where there was no dark side to that yet, didn't sit well with me. And Gideon and the Imperials were just dumb. And Gideon's way too smart to be this person. I almost feel like it is a brain-addled clone that doesn't even know what's going on. I don't want to see that, but I would almost accept that at this point just to redeem the guy a little bit. Because at this point he's all swagger and no delivery. But anyway, a 7 for those reasons, but super enjoyable. I thought the whole season as a whole was enjoyable, and this was a good capper on it. They didn't give a damn about any of our expectations. They did what they wanted to do, and I'm fine with that, But I'm still gonna, on my own scale, judge it, and it's a 7 for me. I don't. I compare it to season 2 and the stakes in that, and the way they built tension in that episode, and every single moment was building, and was amazing. This was like pieces coming and going, and all the pieces were amazing, but it wasn't building towards an amazing moment at the end. Even the soundtrack wasn't comparable. I'm not knocking the soundtrack. I'm not knocking anybody, but all the pieces were so perfect in season 2, and this just was lacking something to put it over the top to like a 9 or something. So.
All right. Well, I have totaled everything up and gotten our average rating for the season. And I want to ask each of you individually if you feel like this actually reflects what you thought of the actual season. So I'll just say mine first. I came out with a 7.9 average rating per episode so that's my rating for the season according to that.
Basically 79% is really good.
Right. And so Greedo, you're at 7.3.
All right.
And Gundark, you're at 8.1.
No real surprises there, I don't think.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm the one
reason
bordering
to
on the Rotten Tomatoes border somewhere.
Bordering on
might
Rotten.
have to think about. But no, it's still a for me a 7.73 or 7.3, whatever.
Yeah.
A 7's high praise, for me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I love this show. I can't wait for it to come back. I'm going to be desperately ill next Wednesday when there's no new episode.
Yeah, when there's not a new episode to turn on. Yep.
Honestly, I don't care how they could show me 10 episodes in a row of Jack Black and Lizzo, and I would still sit there and turn it on. I don't want it to be that. I don't want it to be bad or anything. I want it to be good, but I'm just saying it does have its charm, even at its worst. It's not bad. For some reason, the worst of Boba Fett stuck in my craw way more than the worst of the Mandalorian has ever done. And Boba Fett had some great moments, but for some reason I'm left thinking of it more with a negative connotation than I do with Mandalorian. So they'd have to do a lot of damage to it for me to bring it down in my mind to where I'm not looking forward to seeing it. The people who tuned out, I don't get it. I just don't get it.
No, I don't get it. I just stop watching it. Yeah.
No, and the people that are hating, they're hating on it relentlessly right now, all over the place. And I mean, if anybody had the patience to sit through this, you saw I was very critical of the episode, but I love the freaking show. I'm not, I would never, ever want them to take it off the air or I just want it to improve,
Yeah.
But improvement is subjective, objective, whatever. It depends on your personal tastes and opinions, and Star Wars is always going to try to bridge those gaps and be for more of a general audience, and that's what they did here, kind of by more clearly defining the good guys and bad guys. All the shades of gray were gone, and it's not as appealing to me, but that's what Star Wars is based on at the end of the day. So
and I think to some degree we're having to judge this season in the wake of the spectacular season 2. It's almost unfair. I just can't even imagine anything that would exceed season 2. I loved that season so much, and the finale of season 2 was phenomenal, and how it united the personal, intimate aspect of the relationship between Grogu and Mando at the center of the series with the epic space opera of Star Wars with the return of Luke Skywalker. And that return didn't even overshadow that core relationship between those two characters. Just showed how strong that show was at that point.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
it's kind of unfair to look at this season, as trying to compare it to the last. but also to some degree that season set up certain expectations story wise that this season didn't really fulfill, but it may also have been largely because of not having Pedro Pascal, other than as a voice for this
Yeah.
season. Because I thought more was going to occur with Mando's evolution as a person in this season, and he kind of just got sidelined. And I wouldn't mind for there being such a focus on Bo-Katan and the other Mandalorians if Mando had been given more to do that was of substance throughout the whole season and not just wait until the final episode, so
Yeah.
A lot of times he's a witness. He's like
yeah,
standing in the corner. He's like the guy in
Right.
the background of the historical picture,
yeah,
like the black and white photo. Oh, look, there's Mando back there.
yeah. So it felt almost like the balance was lost that this series has maintained between epic space opera Star Wars out there that's represented by this baby Yoda creature, that we don't know is somehow connected with all of these characters that we've dreamed about for most of our lives. And yet the series maintains such a wonderful focus on the new character Mando with in his relationship with baby Yoda. They maintain that balance between the soap opera distant thing that they're connected to and that intimate relationship. But it seemed like kind of the space opera element took over this season when they're focusing on the Mandalorians and the Mandalorian culture as a whole, rather
I
than
kind of feel like we hit on something when you said Gundark a couple of episodes ago. Doesn't it seem like Grogu could have just not been in this season and it would
yeah,
have been just
Yeah.
as good?
yeah,
And I think there's a lot to be said for that, or they could have just focused more on the characters. The Mandalorian characters are all really cool. And we could have gotten faster to the mix of helmet off, helmet on, so we could have had real human beings to focus on, not just helmets, with the
yeah,
most of
Yeah.
the season
Well,
and everything.
I think that factors into the whole thing I was talking about earlier. I think that they fully
Hello,
intended
hello,
for
Ewok.
yeah. There's a
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I had to acknowledge the Ewok. He was
I just think that they were moving forward with Grogu being gone with Luke for the entire season. And then that's why they had to scramble and save face with, okay, well, we're not going to have Pedro Pascal for season 3 other than his voice. So we're going to have to we got to bring Grogu back for some sort of keep the fan interest going. Let's bring Grogu back because we can't do it without both of them. So let's make 2 quick episodes. We'll throw him in Book of Boba Fett where the Luke thing falls apart and he gets him back, and that way it'll be set up for the beginning of season 3. I just think that was part of it too.
it's like season 2 is saying we're pushing this forward. We're going forward, and then all of a sudden someone said, "Wait, that's where you were going? No. Rein it in, and let's at least push this off longer. Find a reason to hit pause here and get more of what we started with."
Right.
That we know works, because we got to sell more of this merchandise and the Baby Yoda stuff. And if he's gone, we're sitting on millions of dollars of stuff we can't move. But I mean, that's cynical, but I don't know that any of that happened. But you look at what happened on screen, it's pretty weird. And when you were talking about the things, Gundark, about this season, my big gripe is that I thought season 2 was amazing as well from a character standpoint. And the ending was so moving. I felt like the Mandalorian himself was changed, like a changed man, like forever, like completely changed. And for him to just come back and say, "Hey, I'm lost. What do I do?" Well, go have a baptism and you're fine.
Right.
And we hit a reset button in episode 1 or 2 of this season, and all the stuff that happened, that was the whole gist of the whole season 2, was just all temporary, and is undone thread by thread. And it's one way to go, but you talk about a cheat, it makes season 2 feel like a bit of a cheat, or season 3. I don't know. It's like, I don't know what we're doing at a certain point, because they did too good a job. They did too good a job of deconstructing the Mandalorian character. And when Pedro had that helmet off and he's tears are flowing on his face and stuff, and he's lost everything, it's like he's won the fight, but he has lost everything. He's deconstructed as a person. That's what I wanted to see, was where he was going to go next. And I wanted to see it on his face, not on his helmet.
Not through his
I
helmet.
get he's iconic, and we can always go back to him having his kind of silent swagger. And then also this fish out of water when people try to do cute stuff with him. He's like, "What are you doing?" We can always do that stuff, but it feels like a step back, to just have that be his only persona. I feel like they didn't really know what to do with him until they got into the action scenes and stuff, and they could unleash him. Like I said at one point, I almost feel like season 3 should have been in season 2, and season
Yeah.
2 should have been the quest for Grogu's heritage should have been season 3, because then we can move on past all this stuff, and we could have a clear cut indication of what we're doing with the Mando stuff, with the way, with the helmets, instead of all this going back and forth and everything. But mostly Pedro Pascal's amazing.
Yeah.
And getting a little taste of what that would be like was almost too much to bear. To go back to this, I love it. I'll keep watching it every week, but please take the helmet off. Please get him back. Or let's just move on and call it a day. Maybe. But yeah, I've never seen such like deliberate movement in a certain direction and then just nope, reset.
Yeah, completely.
It's weird.
180.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You really get the feeling there's a lot of people pulling in directions on this stuff, trying to get their way, and they're trying to make everybody happy. Maybe with like season 2 was for one person, season 3 was for a different person. I don't know, just guessing.
But see, my average was still what, 8.1 you
8.1,
said
yep.
earlier, and that reflects how I felt overall. I really enjoyed each episode, even the one I gave the 5 to. There were things that I really enjoyed about that episode, that I loved about that episode. The droid bar was just that was wonderful. So
well, an average episode of Mandalorian still is super enjoyable.
Yeah, see,
absolutely.
There you go. So it's just that this season, in the wake of the previous season, things aren't just gelling together right. So, and the lack of having Pedro Pascal as anything other than a voice, I think, is becoming a detriment now. So,
but if the show did implode and they were put this together from pieces, they did a damn good job.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, I think so
They
too. That's why I
did.
said I feel sorry for the creators of the show and the writers and all that for having to scramble to do this.
If that's what
save
happened,
it, if in fact that's
and
what
if
happened.
it did happen, kudos to them. They did a great
absolutely.
freaking job. Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. I'll watch it again and again. So
I don't think I'm going to watch this finale like I did the season 2 one. I mean, it's not just Luke being in it. I'm the biggest Luke fan ever, but just I love that whole episode from beginning to end. Cara Dune, when she blows away that Imperial at the beginning, everything about all of that is just so perfect. I just love that episode. It's got to be my favorite of the whole series. But I was going to say our next assignment ought to be to go back and get an average for each season.
I need to do that.
And just see whether we're falling, rising, what we're doing. And I'm sure if I went back and did a rewatch of the first 2 seasons, I would probably change my ratings a little bit. In hindsight,
Yeah. All right. Any other final thoughts?
It's been a blast. Another season.
Yeah,
it's
been
getting
great.
to enjoy it
Enjoyed
together. I'm glad we've all been
the
still
crickets
here
on
and able to do
Wednesday
it.
is just, my heart is broken.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna have anything on
no show on
Wednesday.
Wednesday now. Exactly. Well, we appreciate you watching and listening, and if you've stuck with us for our nearly 2-hour running time this week, we appreciate it. We really did a wrap up this week. So, but thanks if you've been tuning in week to week. We appreciate it, and thanks for all of your follows and your comments and your likes. Just keep it going. We're going to definitely keep coming out with new content. Just because Mandalorian's done doesn't mean we're going to stop doing episodes. So. We'll be back very soon with more content, and we look to see you then. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. All right, see you next time.
Sorry, my Ewoks interrupted. My Ewoks began acting up. If I didn't
What is it?
How could I be mad at the greatest star?
Wretched hive, scum and villainy.
Greatest star speaking of stars.
This isn't going to be easy.
Good luck.
We must be cautious.
Sing your no. Sing your no. Come on, sing your no. Singing yum nub, yum nub, singing yum nub. At the Cantina Club.
Have you guys heard that commercial yet?
No.
That is it's a commercial. It's like, hey, you enjoying the party? Well, all right, then be rude and don't answer me. Well, is something going on? You look kind of weird. Yeah, one side of your face is real saggy looking. What's going on?
What are you
What?
talking
Yeah,
about?
it's a commercial for strokes. It's like how to and
Commercial
yeah,
for stroke.
and it's-
Commercial for
yes,
stroke.
it is. And
Have you
and
had a
it's-
stroke lately?
So
Try
I
ours.
like to take it to the extreme. You know, it's like
Yeah.
I notice you're
Stroke
drooling
alone cost me
uncontrollably.
I
and your
notice
eyes are
you're
crossed.
drooling.
What's going on, buddy? Okay, well then be that way. I'll just walk off and leave you. But the guy in the commercial, the guy who can't say anything in his mind, he's going, "I'm having a stroke." He says it like that every time they ask him what's going on. He's like, "I'm having a stroke. I'm having a stroke," over and over and over again.
Oh, wow. Oh, good times.